Hello, everyone. Welcome to Building Energy. We've got a great guest on today and a great company, Nationwide Boiler. They're providing boilers to Canada and the U.S., and I think they're actually selling some worldwide. We'll find that out when we dig in a little bit. But they've got just in their rental fleet, they've got over 100. They've got on the emission side, they've got a Catastrak. I hope I'm saying that right. SCR system that we're going to be talking about is that they've developed and put into the market. That's doing some amazing stuff. We'll get a little bit of the backstory on that. Lots to cover. We've got their president and CEO Larry Day on the show. Before we jump into the interview, we are doing our heavy industry tour. We are, by the time this comes out, we will have been to obviously the US and Canada, but we've done South Africa, Australia, and the US is our next stop. It's going to be PowerGen 2023 in Florida. So that's a great event. I've been to it before. We're going to be there filming episodes, so make sure to become a part of it if you're going to be there. And a special thanks to Savinaw Equipment for being our travel sponsor, getting us all over the world to do these episodes. It's a ton of fun, so thank you, Savinaw Equipment. Check them out. And now let's begin building energy. Larry, welcome to the show. It's great to have you on.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
I already showed my skill level because I asked you if that was a chess clock behind you, and I got quickly corrected. So what? Well,
Like I say,
let's start with that. What is that behind you?
it's some gauges that were used on a chiller application, an absorption chiller application where it measures the pressure of the steam going into the chiller. So it's just steam. It's a steam gauge and some chiller gauges there that measure pressure.
And
Not a
certainly,
clock. Yeah.
and not a chess clock. All right.
Yeah. Okay.
So now everybody knows who's the expert in this interview. We can begin. So let's. Uh, how long have you been in the industry?
I've been in the industry a little over 40 years, I hate to say. So basically all my working life, I've been in the boiler industry.
How'd you end up in it?
Uh, Really, it was my first job out of college. I went to work for a boiler manufacturer back in Pennsylvania. That's where I grew up and went to school. And my first job out of college was to work for a boiler manufacturer. And that's really where I got into the industry, got to know the boiler history and the products. And then after about 6 years in that job, I moved to California to go to work for a Nationwide Boiler and been here ever since.
What's the story? I mean, obviously we're going to cover lots of Nationwide Boiler, but what's your story of sort of becoming the CEO? And I mean that's a long career with one company.
Uh, I was um, I was a vice president of sales for gosh, almost 25 years before I became president. Our president retired 6 years ago, and with my background and experience, I was really the logical candidate to replace him. So I've been president now for 6 years. Prior to that, I was vice president of sales and marketing for like the past 35 years. So I've been here a long time. So
Was there a shift having to go from those other roles to now CEO, president? What was the sort of the
um,
biggest challenge or that you
probably
faced?
uh, going to president from vice president of sales have kind of come off the front line of sales, not so
Mm,
much involved personally in the sales side, although I still monitor it and advise and stuff. But so my travel has relaxed a lot. I'm not
mm.
traveling like I was when I was in sales, and I've learned to delegate more since I'm president and CEO and
Right.
responsible for the other parts of the organization, the accounting and the operations side of the business, got more involved in that.
Right. And a
And
lot of taking in information now, I would imagine.
yeah,
Yeah.
making more decisions.
Yeah. With more impact. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, okay, tell us about Nationwide Boiler. Give us that, the 2 minute at an event when someone says, "Who are you?" Who is the company?
Nationwide boiler started about 57 years ago. Uh, our founder and owner was a boiler inspector, and he would he worked for a large insurance company who would provide machinery and insurance for industrial customers. And when they had a breakdown or something, they would have to pay lost production or whatever to their client. And he saw a need in the marketplace for a rental boiler solution. Uh, just like you have, just like when your power goes out, you can rent a generator. Well, when your steam system goes out, you want to be able to rent a boiler. And he saw that there was really the industry was really at its infancy back then. There really wasn't much available. Some customers would sometimes bring a locomotive in and fire that up and use the steam off the locomotive, off their siding or whatever. But there was really the rental industry was really at its beginning back then.
Mm,
There really people didn't know they could rent a boiler when their boiler went down or they had a need for steam. Because otherwise they just shut their plant down and wait till they get a new boiler in or another
right.
boiler in, or they get it repaired. And if you got to shut your whole plant down, you're
Imagine.
talking, you know, can be millions of
Yeah.
dollars of lost production, sending your workers home because you don't have a source for steam. So he saw a need in the marketplace and he set about to fulfill it. He must have been a good salesman because he convinced his wife to sell their house and took the money from their house and bought two boilers and started nationwide boiler rentals
Oh my. Oh, all
with,
right.
with, with two boilers, And
And he called it
so
nationwide right off the bat.
we called it nationwide
That's
boiler rentals. We
that's
have
gutsy.
rentals in our name off the bat. And as far as we can determine, he was really the first boiler rental guy to buy new boilers and specifically put them on trailers,
Mm.
dedicated trailers for rental use. And he really developed the trailer mounted boiler industry back in the early 60s.
L&H Industrial can custom engineer and build from the ground up any heavy equipment assembly or machine that you need for your operation. Their worldwide 24/7 field services network is on the job whenever you need heavy equipment troubleshooting, repairs, rebuilds, relocations, or replacements. And thanks to their specialized design and engineering and state-of-the-art manufacturing and repair services, they are a go-to international supplier for improved components and custom assemblies for heavy industrial machinery. Visit lnh.net to learn more. Cut's fourth commitment to innovating technologies for the power industry has been the biggest driver in developing their innovative and unique offerings. Their patented easy change brush holder design, shaft grounding, and monitoring systems have been installed across the globe. Ever evolving, they recently expanded their offerings through the acquisitions of Insight CM, an online asset monitoring platform, and WSC Consulting Services. They are continuously supporting the power industry through the power of innovation. Visit cutsforth.com to learn more about their products and services. That's cutsforth.com, and you can also watch out for Cutsforth's upcoming 3-part series. OptiSize is a leading edge geophysical acquisition design and software company. OptiSize provides innovative seismic survey designs utilizing the latest field technology and optimizing for advanced processing and quantitative interpretation techniques. OptiSize's mission is to bring sustainable exploration solutions to energy development with their custom land footprint reduction technology, EcoSize. EcoSize enables operators to focus on reducing their environmental and greenhouse gas footprint while imaging all their subsurface targets and reducing costs. You can visit them at optisize.com to learn more.
And so now, I mean, the company's grown to a place. I mean, there's different product lines and everything, but just in your rental fleet, you've got 100, and I would imagine they're sort of placed around. I mean, I'm trying to understand how many 100 is. That seems like a lot of mobile boilers. Can you give us a sort of a scope of what that can deliver from a U.S. Canada standpoint?
Yeah, we have boilers from like 100 horsepower up to 200,000 pounds per hour. So we have boilers from the size of like a small container to large units that have to be shipped by rail.
Mm.
And that the fleet is comprised of about 1/3 fire tube units and 2/3 water tube units, which are the larger units that are used by pulp and paper companies, refineries, large food processors. Um, and those comprise the bulk of our fleet. And that's really what we're known for is trailer mounted water tube boilers. And we ship those really all over the world now,
Oh,
even
okay.
though a lot of our fleet is located in California. We have storage facilities all over the US where we can ship from. So we kind of scatter our fleet so that our initial desire was to be able to deliver these within 36 hours to anywhere in the US based on our storage location. So we didn't want to have to ship everything from California. So we scattered it all around the country so we could deliver quickly to our customers. And in the rental business, delivery is a big factor. Getting it fast and getting it, at the lowest delivery cost is a major factor in decision making when you're renting a boiler.
So these boilers, do you have the specific ones in these locations based on the environments, like the type of production that is in those areas? Do you sort of have to coordinate it that way? How do you assess where which should go?
Yeah, kind of, because we have our larger, higher pressure units. We try to concentrate them in the Gulf Coast, the Texas, Louisiana Gulf Coast, because they're more typically used at refineries and petrochemical complexes use those types of boilers. So we try to concentrate those in Texas and Louisiana. And then for smaller manufacturers, the more the commercial manufacturers, we uh, try to concentrate those in the Northeast, uh, hospital applications and
Mm.
smaller commercial applications that don't need a lot of steam. So yeah, they are scattered all over. And in California, we have California fleet is more dedicated to the emissions that's required in California because we're more very strict in California as far as the
Hmm.
emissions. And so our fleet in California is kind of dedicated to that market.
I want to talk about the emissions here in a moment, but I was going to ask you about the sort of proactive on the customer side. Are how important is it for you to be talking to the customers before they actually need you, especially in the case of emergency shutdowns?
Well, we try to, like I said, because the rental industry is something a lot of customers don't even think about till they need it.
Right.
We do a lot of advertising and trade shows and events where we try to get the customers to think about the rental before they need it. That way, they're prepared. One of the worst things you can do for a customer is surprise them with things as far as what they need to do when they rent a boiler, because
Mm.
it's a multitude of tasks as far as the installation and permitting. Can come be almost overwhelming. So we like to get to the customers before they need us and educate them on the process of renting. Um, maybe get them to provide the tie-ins to their steam plant in advance of the need. Maybe check into what kind of permitting they're going to need in advance. So the more we can talk to the customer in advance of his rental need, the smoother the project goes,
Mm.
and really the more satisfied the customer is.
I definitely want to talk about I think this ties in. You can correct me. The Catastrak SCR systems. I think that ties in probably with what you're talking about your fleet in California, with the more regulations. Can you talk a little bit more? Do I have that right? Does the Catastrak system tie in with directly with that, or is that a different
Yes.
sort of?
Yeah, that's why it was developed because of the emission requirements in California. That's why we developed a Catastrak to address the low emission requirements in California. Back in probably the late 90s, when California went really strict in their emission requirements, it was kind of, their requirements were really ahead of the industry as far as what was really developed out there by the manufacturers to meet these
Mm,
requirements. And I think the regulators really were looking at the industry to develop products to meet the new standards rather than developing standards that met what the current products could produce.
right.
We were really, I, I guess, not comfortable with the existing technology to reach those low emission levels, especially from a rental standpoint, because our units really have to be bulletproof when they go out. They have to work right out of the box and they got to be dependable. And really, the low NOx or low emission burner equipment back, 20 years ago, you really couldn't say that about it. It was still kind of in the infancy as far as working all the bugs out and making them stable and providing good performance. So we we looked at SCR technology, which had been around since the mid '60s, as our solution to meet these really tough and low emission levels. Even though it was more expensive, it was a proven technology that was dependable, and we were much more comfortable using that. So we started using that technology for our rental customers in California. And about 6 years after using it, our customers started saying to us, "Why can't we buy? Can we buy one of those units from you?"
Mm,
Because really they work so well that our really expanded and just really created another like division, sell these units to our customers, not just use them ourselves on our rental fleet. So um, I kind of look at it like, if you want to buy a lawnmower, wouldn't you ask your landscaper what's the best lawnmower he uses? We're a boiler rental company that's doing this every day. So maybe the customers say, well, Nationwide, what SCRs or what low emission product should I use since you use them all the time? So we were able to come to this market as with credibility because we use these
mm.
in our rental fleet every day, and we're familiar. We weren't just selling a new product; we were selling something that we use ourselves, and we're really dedicated to technology and supporting it.
Is that was the development of the technology tied in? I believe you had an acquisition, and I think it was. Well, you know who it was, but I think there was an acquisition that happened around 2017. Was that part of developing that technology, or was that like a control system? Can you just update it? Just clarify that one.
The acquisition that we made in 2017 was from our panel supplier, our control supplier that we had been using for probably 17 years. You see that? It just had an earthquake.
Wow, really?
Did you see it shake?
Yeah, I did. I thought maybe you were moving something.
All
No,
right.
we just had a little shaker.
Oh, wow.
Well, that's a first on the show.
Yeah.
So the company that had been supplying our control panels to us, the opportunity came up to buy them. Their principal owner was retiring, and it was really an easy acquisition for us because we knew the company so well. They were a trusted supplier for us, and so it was just a natural for us to bring them into our fold and start promoting their products under our banner at that time. So it was a good acquisition for us, and we've actually grown that company up there, well, doubled their size since the acquisition.
What
Really,
Oh, I was just going to ask, what's the reason for that growth from there? What sort of what spurred that on after the acquisition?
well, they're primarily a Northwest company and limited to business in the Washington, Oregon area. But by bringing them in, expose them to really our entire marketing network of representatives and customers around the country. So instead of just selling controls and panels to the local market up there, we're now offering these all around the country to a lot of our customers, and a lot of our representatives are now marketing their products in their various states.
I see. I wanted to go back to that the SCR system. From the time of sort of inceptions to now, have there been sort of these major developments? Is it sort of progressing? Is it that type of product that can continue to improve?
Yeah, there's continual improvement in the technology and the systems we provide. Probably the biggest thing that has come about in the SCR industry is when we first developed this product, it was using anhydrous ammonia as the reagent to reduce the NOx. And now we use now we're using, many systems are using urea, which is a much safer and non-hazardous product. And that was one of the big, I say, negative things about SCRs years ago, is that they used ammonia.
Mm.
And a lot of customers have a definite aversion to ammonia, which they should. It's a dangerous product, especially if it's in the pure form. It requires certain handling and hazardous. Uh, it's a hazardous material, and a lot of permits are required for storing it on site. But since we are able to use urea now, which is a safe product, doesn't even require permits for storage and use, it has really uh, widened up the customers that are more acceptable to SCR products.
E3 Lithium is a lithium resource and technology company aiming to power the growing electrical revolution. Based in Alberta, E3 Lithium's combined resources, including the Clearwater project, are being developed on the backbone of the mature and sophisticated oil and gas industry that will allow the company to accelerate its development. Visit them at e3lithium.ca to learn more. Introducing the SolarSet Fold. The new foldable frame solar system brings power to your residential and commercial property and can be shipped worldwide. Like all SolarSet products, the SolarSet Fold comes turnkey, pre-assembled, and is easily transported and installed. Learn more about SolarSet Fold and their full line of amazing solar systems at solarset.com.
And urea is the same urea that's used in like diesel trucks and cars these days. It's a fluid called DEF, diesel exhaust fluid. That's really urea. And since they started using it in diesel trucks and cars, it's really helps uh, promote in SCRs around the country.
Mm.
So we're using the same diesel exhaust fluid that you use in your diesel truck or car in our SCRs.
I mean, have you done? Well, I was just gonna. I was trying to look up. I think it's called SF Sinclair now. They're one of your customers. Just talking about um, who you've worked with and some of these scale to just kind of paint. This is the energy show. Just kind of paint us a picture of some of the customers that you've worked with.
Well, one of our biggest jobs the last couple of years was with the uh, ExxonMobil Baytown refinery down in Texas, and we had six of our rental boilers with urea SCRs on them at that job site, and that was the first job site for a rental boiler company to have urea SCRs on, and they use those boilers for about 3.5 years. Turned out to be one of our largest ever. But this was six of them at in Baytown, and that project just ended earlier this year, and that was really a showcase job for us
Mm.
because it was the first one using urea SCRs in a rental application.
So when you're using a different system on a major project like that, does that create a roadblock? Do they really need to see exactly what you're doing before they'll even like allow it on site, essentially, or what's that process?
Well, I think the customers want to have confidence that we've used these systems before and that we know what we're doing. And there's a lot of upfront education on it and engineering involved. So our past experience in the SCR fields has really paid off because we really have over 200 of these installed over
Mm,
the last 20 some years. So being that we're have all of this experience and probably we're number one in boiler SCRs and total number of SCRs in the field in our energy sector really helps convince the customers that they are dealing with the right person for this product. It's really not a, a, a risky job
mm.
because of our dependability and experience in this field.
And the way that the way I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the terminology that you're using. The different way that the essentially the different chemical that you're using in the SCR, that is not a roadblock because that's a better form of use, right? Can you just
Yes.
clarify what that is again?
Urea.
Urea, as opposed
Yeah.
to
Ammonia.
ammonia. Yeah, right. Um, I also before we wrap up this interview, I want to talk a little bit about the industry outlook as well. And I'm probably not a better person to ask. You've been in the industry 40 years, so can you sort of compare to what it's been and what it is now? Do you see sort of where it's going and where it needs to go?
Well, like I said, the boiler industry, being it's a very old industry, a lot of people think it's a dying industry, but it's really not a dying industry. The boiler industry, uh, like I think 80% of all products use steam in their original manufacturing process.
Mm,
So steam isn't going away, and steam can only be really produced effectively with boilers. Now, what's changed in our industry, I would call it the decarbonization of our industry, that there's this movement to get away from fossil fuels. Well, our industry years ago was coal, then it went to oil, now it's natural gas. And just by going to natural gas, we've reduced a lot of the emissions and contaminants that boilers produce. But now we're looking at, instead of natural gas, we're looking at alternate fuels like hydrogen and biofuels and stuff. So there's really not a good replacement product out there that can produce steam. You can't really effectively produce steam from windmills or solar panels or anything like that. And so a lot of these applications would still require steam in the original form, whether it's for energy production at a power plant that's turning a turbine, or it's at a chemical plant that's producing plastic, or a refinery that's cracking oil. All these processes use steam in their original manufacturing process, and that's not really going away. Um, a lot of steam um, in the commercial side has changed because a lot of years ago, a lot of people used boilers in buildings for heat.
mm.
Now that has changed to the HVAC industry. So those applications have gone from steam or hot water to air. But we're not in that business. We're not in the commercial side of the boiler business. We're in the industrial side. And that's still going to be around in its same form for many, many years. But in our industry, there's a lot of talk about going to hydrogen as the primary fuel rather than natural gas. And of course, that would be a game changer
Mm.
for carbon emissions because there aren't any carbon emissions from burning hydrogen. And so that would be a game changer for us.
And you think it will 10 years from now, is that how they're going to be powered?
I think a good percentage of it will be. Um, the infrastructure for hydrogen isn't there yet.
Yeah.
Pipelines and storage, a lot of issues, and just the manufacturing of the hydrogen is energy intensive too. So, um, and we don't have that yet, but it's getting there. And there's you'll see more and more hydrogen firing here in the next 10 years.
Hmm. I'll make this my last question for you. I wanted to clarify your. I don't want to get into your secret sauce either, but from a business perspective, is it still primarily the rental, or I mean, I saw you. I mean, you've got used units on. You're selling new ones in. Is it sort of is it sort of even to units you're selling to rental, or is the primary still the rental business?
Um, More than 50% of our business is still the rental business. That's our flywheel. That's what we really concentrate on. And that's really our bread and butter. And then the equipment sales really comes mainly as a result of our rental business.
Right.
We have rental customers that want to buy equipment, so we're naturally in the door with our rental business. So it's a good complement having the rentals and the sales that go hand in hand.
Do you? I'll make this my last question. Actually, do you miss the road?
Huh?
Do you miss the road?
No, I do not miss traveling at all, but I do miss seeing and meeting customers
Yeah.
and seeing their plants because customers like to show people their plants and
Yep.
their products. And that's what I enjoyed most, going to say a pulp and paper mill or a food processor and having them show me their plant. I do miss that, but I do not miss airports at all.
Yeah, especially these days. Well, Larry, thank you so much for coming on the show. I certainly hope this is not the last time you're featured. Very interesting company, and just your background in the industry. It's great to have someone on that's been in the industry a long time. So thank you very much, and
Okay,
hopefully you'll be back on soon.
okay, thank you.
And thank you everybody for watching. There'll be plenty of links to the topics we covered about Nationwide Boiler. Check out our heavy industry tour. Again, thank you to Savinaw Equipment for helping us get all over the world and promote heavy industry from all different directions, specifically on building energy from the energy side. So thank you. Please keep watching, and we'll see you on the next episode of Building Energy.